Hello, this is Black7 here, and today we'll be discussing our first Mega Evolution of the series. So I want to do for the first Mega Evolution, and by the way, we're gonna be doing like Megas every 5th and 10th episode of this series, so just keep that in mind. So for the first Mega Evolution of the series, we'll be going over pretty much one of the more popular mons you see in Draft League, and that is Mega Lopunny. So the normal fighting bunny. So as you might see on the front of your screen. So yeah. So what makes Lopunny really good? Well, because of its Mega Evolution. So based off its changes, it gets the ability. It gets a good typing now with normal fighting. Really good offensively, but even from a defensive standpoint, you're only weak to fighting, flying, psychic, and fairy types. Okay, maybe that's a bit much, but you're immune to ghost types from your normal move. But you also get some neat resistances because of the fighting type with rock, bug, and dark. Now rock, it might be not sound much, but the fact that you're resistant to rocks means that you take less damage from stealth rocks in general. So that's huge because Lopunny doesn't have a lot of recovery in terms of moves. In terms of like certain moves, so and the thing is with that fighting resistance, you're gonna be taking less damage from stealth rocks in general. You'll be coming in and out all the time, so just keep that in mind. For former abilities it used to have, it had Klutz, Q Charm, and Limber, so those three are pretty much terrible. So I guess Limber and Q Charm are really fun to use if you're just trying to switch into Lopunny and all of a sudden, oh great, your opponent's mount subtracted or there's paralysis there. So that might be funny in that sense. So, but generally speaking, you just gotta keep in mind its weakness and persistence. So yeah, especially the ones with rocks and its weaknesses. For its BST, like Lopunny is very like gains a massive attack boost. I think it's like 60 or something like around there. So, and it gets also a boost in its speed and slight boost in defense. So it's like overall, it's like its attack, its offensive like physical attack is just through the roof with 135 plus with like attack and speed at the same time. Like with its speed stat, by the way, it is one of the fastest Mega Evolutions out there. Of course, it's not faster than something like, say, Mega Zam, but it is definitely very fast in its own right. So, given it's within like upper echelons of speed tiers, it's very and it's very important because very few Pokemon can outspeed that. So, and its defenses are quite nice because it can take a hit, or in a sense. So it's very nice for Lopunny to just take a one hit or two, or maybe one. So, and its ability now, this might. For some people, it might be weird, like, oh, why is Lopunny considered good? It's just its ability, Scrappy. And basically with Scrappy, you can hit ghost types, which basically means it's unresisted. Now, normally, ghost types can take any hit from normal and fighting types, because of course they're immune. But with Scrappy, it's like removing the immunity. So it's like taking neutral damage. Now, most ghost types in general have some form of resistance, and it really helps them. Like, say, Gengar, they'll take a hit HJK, for instance, or a high jump kick. But with normal stab, most ghost types don't have resistances to normal, oftentimes. So Lopunny can just two-shot them with its normal coverage. So as you'll see. Now, overall, its stacked coverage is just a massive buff in attack and speed, so yeah. Now, regarding its like the value for Mega Lopunny, like, or why would you draft it? Like, it's basically one of the best Mega Evolutions out there. Because of its great offensive stats and its ability itself, because Scrappy just allows you to hit ghost types and makes normal and fighting moves basically unresisted, and just gives you perfect stab coverage. You just need a normal and a fighting move. that's pretty much it. And even then, Lopunny has a bunch of fighting, or a bunch of fighting and normal type moves to abuse, so as well as a plethora of physical coverage to just use off of its 136 attack. And remember, as I mentioned, like 135 speed is amazing in Draft League. Like not a lot of Pokemon are gonna be outspeeding Mega Lopunny, and oftentimes you could just make the Mega Lopunny just outrun what it needs to outrun, and that's it. So, and you can just run some HP or some bulk investment. So, and what also makes Lopunny very, very scary is the fact that it, even like from its regular form, regular form used to have like a bunch of utility and setup options as well, and mostly disruptions as well. As you, if you've used, let's say, something like a Klutz Lopunny with Scarf, a choice Scarf just to scarf something in, like, well, obviously you can't use Klutz with this, but the example is that it has certain like certain status options that could just support moves, or that could just diversify its offensive and support value in general for a team. And the thing is, like, all of that makes Lopunny, all of this I mentioned, just makes Lopunny a very highly sought out Pokemon, and it's often seen as like, it often goes like in the first 1 or 2 rounds of the draft, just because of how offensively capable this thing is. It's been proven from time to time again, from Gen 6 and now. So, for popular moves or notable moves, your chances are likely you're just gonna see stuff like Return, Frustration, just as stab options for Lopunny. They're the same moves in general, but like the thing with Lopunny is that it could just it could deal heavy damage with its stab. And not only that, when paired with High Jump Kick or HJK, as I'll abbreviate throughout this video, HJK is basically a 130 stab move powered up. It's like 210 like full power, which is stupidly strong, and it's just practically just two-shot anything that's like, and it's like that's doesn't have high defense or resistances. So yeah. Then you have priority options like Fake Out, Quick Attack, which Lopunny, like most of the time you see Lopunny with Fake Out. But the thing is with Fake Out is that it not only does it guarantee there's a Mega, but you also have access to like to some form of chip damage. Now before, like, oftentimes people will say, oh, you could just use Fake Out just to like get your speed going. But now with Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or Gen 7 in general, like, you can just use your full speed immediately. So that's something about like Megas to keep in mind. So you could also take that into account. So run something like Quick Attack, or you can run both of them, because Fake Out plus Quick Attack is an excellent priority combo as well. So, and they don't expect it. Then you have Power Up Punch to boost your attack in general. Encore, which pretty much deserves its own slide, which I'll pretty much discuss. It just traps your opponent into an unfavorable move, and it just makes people think twice about running shit like Protect, or like even like setting up on Lopunny, because like, let's say if you set up with Encore or set up with Calm Mind, now you're pretty much forced, and Lopunny just goes for Encore. Now you're forced to take damage on something, whether it's your wall, and it's pretty much unnecessary chip damage as well. So, and they could just get 2-shotted as well, or 3-shotted if they're weakened enough. So then you have the elemental punches as well, and that's like Ice Punch, and the other ones across like Fire Punch, Thunder Punch. Most of the time Return is stronger, but you might want to consider them in case you're faced against quad effective mons, like let's say a Gyarados for Thunder Punch, a Ferrothorn Fire Punch, or no, not Ferrothorn, but like maybe Katana, or like Parasect maybe. Let's say that, or a Dragonite or Landorus with Ice Punch. So Low Kick is a good stab alternative in case you don't want to run like Low Kick in general. So yeah, or like High Jump Kick because of its recoil potential. Like, losing 50% of your recoil can be very frustrating. So like for Lopunny users, since you just, from that point on, you just pretty much die. Like, because HJK is a very high risk, high reward move. Like, well, most of the time you'll hit, but if you miss, you're probably gonna die. So yeah. Then you have Facade, which pretty much takes advantage of these stat moves and whatnot. So again, the last options are like pretty much coverage options like Drain Punch, gain some recovery, another fighting step for coverage, Iron Terrible for fairy types, the Taunt Pass, which pretty much acts like, you know, U-turn and Volt Switch. Could be a very good initiative move. And you could set up to have some stat boost if it's legal in certain leagues. Then you have Cleric options, which can actually do a lot can just surprisingly well with Heal Bell, Healing Wish to recover Pokemon status or HP at the cost of its own life with Heal Bell especially. Not Heal Bell, but like with Healing Wish especially. So just keep that in mind that that Healing Wish you're gonna pretty much commit to suicide in a sense, but in return for like it's pretty much like a self-sacrificial move in return for healing something up. So, and you do have access to moves like Toxic and Thunder Wave, so you can just wear down opposing walls and that. So, last resort, we'll talk about that later. So yeah. So offensive sets, you want to consider like the fact that you're really gonna almost always run a normal and fighting type coverage, unless the opposing team has no norm or fighting resistance. Which in turn, you could just like go crazy and just run like, let's say, Return, and that's it. And then like have the rest be something like, let's say, like Quick Attack, Fake Out, Return, and maybe like Power Up Punch, since there's not that many you know, fighting type weaknesses. So yeah. But with this moveset, it's pretty much bread and butter. Like it's pretty much standard Lopunny. Fake Out is pretty much there just to guarantee damage on something. It's not just to get your Mega Evolution going, but also to guarantee damage. And since it is stab, it's gonna do a fair chunk. Return and Frustration is really nice coverage if you want. You could run Facade, but I do highly advise against it, unless like you have the move slot to run it, and you feel that your opponent's gonna have some status option for Lopunny. You could just run Facade instead. So. As like an open move slot. So then you have the choice between High Jump Kick, Low Kick, and Dream Punch. Like you have to choose between the three, whether you want immediate power, but you know the high risk, high reward. Some consistency with Low Kick and Dream Punch. Now Low Kick, the thing is with Low Kick is that given certain targets like Rock, Steel, and Dark type Pokemon, like they are fairly heavy, so you're gonna be doing. It's often like around 80 power or like 100 or 120 power. So you're doing just good much damage. A good amount of damage. Like, you're still gonna get the 2 shots if you need it, so. Then you have, let's say, Drain Punch if you want to recover some HP back from, like, let's say, suffering from entry hazards, but. Or just dealing against, like, certain fighting type Pokemon. And you just want to get some recovery, so, yeah. Then lastly, you want to have, like, an elemental option, like, say, Ice Punch, Fire Punch. I just put Ice Punch just there because it's pretty much commonly used. You rarely see Fire Punch or like Thunder Punch unless it's specific. Like let's say Gyarados for Eldorn, Escavalier. But Ice Punch, you're more likely going to see spawns like let's say Dragonite, Salamence, and let's say Landorus. So yeah. Then of course Quick Attack for priority. So now the second moveset is pretty much the same as the other one. The only difference is that you have Power Punch, which pretty much takes it like. What you generally want to do is you want to force the opponent to like attempt to switch out, but then like force them out, and then you just get a +1 boost, and now all of a sudden your dedicated wall is now one-shotted by either Return or Hydra Kick, or like 1 or 2 shotted. So, and of course coverage options pretty much how you feel like the build. Oh yeah, keep in mind you could also run even though the sets are very standard, you can cut a lot of speed investment to a certain benchmark to determine, okay, let's say if there's a Taco Coco, you need to run Jolly. So, but if there is something like, say, as fast as Latios, maybe you could just run Adamant Nature and just do even more damage. Since, like, Adamant just about outspeeds most, I want to say, like, up to base 117, 118, I don't know. But I know it doesn't outspeed like 120s for sure, so yeah. But that's like the thing. You could change between Jolly or Adamant, just depending on the speed tiering of your mons and whether or not you're worried about certain Scarfers, low speed speed tier Scarfer, so yeah. For the other set, this is pretty much offensive support, and pretty much we'll talk about Encore now. So, the thing about Encore is that it traps in Pokemon into unfavorable moves. Like, let's say, you face something, let's say, like a Tenor just sends up Toxic Spikes, or no, like, let's say a better example, let's say, or something like a Garchomp that you just send in Lopunny in, you hard read or something like that. Even though I advise it against that, but like, it goes for Swords Dance, and then like, you can lock it into to Encore, so yeah. So you gotta keep in mind Z moves, just keep in mind that, so it just goes, Z moves bypass Encore, so just let you know. But the point of the move Encore is basically to lock someone into like an unfavorable move, or like status move, in which they're gonna be forced to switch out, or stay in, or be sacked, so. Of course you want to have either return or high jump kick or low kick, however you feel. You could try substitute to take away some of its HP at the cost of a decoy in that turn. So now you have Mon that could just like, they have to break the sub now before they try to kill you. So yeah, of course normal fighting is good coverage, or you could run priority as well. Now the second set is pretty much a utility set, despite its how do I say it? Weird. It's despite it running a more offensive coverage with high jump kick and return. Like, the thing about this Lopunny is that it's pretty much like however you feel like you need to run it. So like, if you want to toxic something down, like there's a lure, you can just run toxic. You could paralyze something on the switch. You can try that, or you could use Magic Coat to like bounce back any hazards or like status that could hit Lopunny as well. Guild Bell is nice to have to like recover your status of your own Pokemon, though it's advisable you want to have someone else do it, but Lopunny can try. Of course you could try Encore as usual, or you could to lock in Mons into and give yourself good positioning, or you could just try Healing Wish to heal up a Mon in general, so recover someone at full health at the cost of Lopunny once you're done. So the third set we'll be talking about here is well, they're really much some fun sets. Now, Baton Pass, I do want to talk about exclusively here, since you can run it on the other sets, but for Baton Pass, I just want to give like a little brief overview, because the thing is, it really depends on like, the effectiveness of Baton Pass depends on how certain teams like run it in general, and also like the league itself. Whether they outright ban Baton Pass, or even like or you're only limited to certain, like, you can't boost speed, you can't boost multiple stats, and just one stat in general. So yeah, so that's why I listed these moves in general. So Power Punch, Agility, Cosmic Power. So I don't think you can pass multiple stats aside like maybe like defense stats. That's it, or speed in certain lanes, but like, I don't think it'll allow both. But if there's like full Baton Pass, then yeah, you could go crazy with this. With Lopunny, most of the time you're likely gonna have Power Punch, and then you're just gonna like try to use it to like pressure your opponent. And once you're done sweeping, you just have someone else just take the baton and just like, well, here's these attack boosts. Now just go sweep. So say like, once you're done, like, oh, switch to something like, say, a Garchomp, and just, oh, now you have +1 attack, or +2, and just sweep with Earthquake. So that's something really nice with fast Baton Pass in general. You can just go into something that's really bulky and just take those hits. Or you could just have Agility or Cosmic Power to take advantage of the defense or the speed boost, so yeah. But yeah, it could also be used, but Baton Pass could also be used, like, you know, bare bones, like, you know, having pivot options, or like Volt Switch, Parting Shot, U-turn. So, and given this is a fast Lopunny, this is a fast pivot for Lopunny, you can likely just switch out whenever you want first, most of the time, and then you could go to your proper defensive check. So yeah. Then you have Last Resort, which pretty much is a fun set to use, since Last Resort basically the goal, it's pretty much a very gimmicky set, but like the goal is is to like set up a power punch, maybe one or two, and just go ham with last resort with stab, and you're likely just gonna kill everything. So, and it's really funny in a way because like very few Pokemon can just take this in hit in general, except for maybe power or pressure users. So yeah, most of the time they have 2 move slots. They're rarely gonna run like a third slot, like let's say return. So yeah. For in terms of how to use Lopunny, it's best to use Lopunny as a revenge killer or basically a cleaner during the mid to late game. So oftentimes, you rarely use Lopunny early game unless you're just gonna go for fake out initially just to get chip damage, or you could just beat a lead and just OHKO it with like your respective stab option, or just get some chip damage in general. But the thing is with Lopunny, it works very well with bulky offensive teams or even balanced. And maybe like semi-stall, but given the fact that all it does is pretty much like you're pretty much getting the kills itself, and those teams like your partners are likely gonna like chip down the opposing mons as well, to the point where Lopunny, they don't have to get the kills themselves, they just have to make sure that Lopunny can just outspeed the rest of those mons, and it just gets the OHKOs quickly. Whether it's with the stab options, its priority options, or just lock them in with Encore. So, like once Lopunny's done its job, it could just go down and have its other partners just take it down in general. So that's one of the reasons why Lopunny is very effective in the draft league in general. So, hazards really like are very important when running with Lopunny, because with toxic spikes and spikes, you can just get vital chip damage, and especially with toxic spikes, because with toxic spikes plus fake out is just very deadly, because you're just doing the fake out chip damage and the toxic spike 12% like damage. Generally speaking, you want to go with just one toxic spike, unless you're facing more bulkier team compositions that like actually need like heal bill. So that way you can just always pressure them. So try to avoid using the Mega Lopunny against like more defensive teams, because very often not, like this is something I've noticed, that people try to like go ham with it. And sometimes they do, try to make predictions, and unless they have to, in a sense. Just try to avoid like facing defensive mons and just risking Lopunny, because this is likely your best win con in the game. It's pretty much your best mon in the whole matchup instance. So yeah. So that said, if you're facing those defensive walls, and if they try to set up against you, you can try using stuff like, let's say, Encore, Toxic, or just switch out Baton Pass. You can even try to set up on them with Power Punch and try to OHKO or 2-shot them. So yeah. Just watch out for any Scarfers or priority options. And just, or anything like a status shoot, because like, that's gonna slow Lopunny down. If you could get rid of those Scarfers, or just like those status options. So, the thing was with that, even then you could just run Facade, or adult priority fake out plus quick attack. So for against Scarfers, all you need to do is just like weaken those Scarfers down to maybe like within range of a fake out plus quick attack, depending on your damage calculation. So yeah. In terms of partners, Mega Lopunny appreciates Dark type Pokemon in general, because they technically deal heavy damage to opposing Psychic and Ghost types. While some Ghost types Lopunny can be hit them, like some of them do have access to status moves and are defensive in general. So these guys are also like lovely to have, because they also have access to move called Pursuit or Knockoff. Like with Pursuit, you actually do double the damage if they attempt to switch out, and with Knockoff, you are pretty much removing their item, and some Psychic types do R walls and do have general recovery options. So it's helpful to just remove the items in general. So, but generally speaking, most of the time, these guys appreciate like Lopunny as the fact that it could just deal with like opposing, let's say, Psychic and Dark types. And Lopunny, with those pairing with the Dark types, can like form a great offensive core in general. So Steel type Pokemon are nice to have, because they check most of counter most of Lopunny's weaknesses in Fairy, Glide, and I believe not Fighting, but what's the other one? Psychics. They're resistant to those modes. But they don't do. They do compound its fighting weakness with Lopunny, so except for some of these like Celesteela, Jirachi, and which they can actually do with opposing fight types themselves with their secondary stats. So, thing with these guys, they do have access to priority. Do have an incredible bulk. You can just wall them, and do have some access to entry hazards like Stealth Rocks, and just wear down the opposing team. So they're just generally walls, and it could also be like a wall core or a pivot option, like Volturn, or like with the U-turn, Volturn, or Volt Switch, or even like with paired with Lopunny's Baton Pass. So yeah, these guys could just like wear down those mons, like those aforementioned set mons, like Fairy, Psychic, flying types in general. So yeah, ghost types actually pair surprisingly well with Lopunny, especially the offensive ones, because like they are terrified of dark types, and Lopunny just beats almost every dark type Pokemon with its powerful stab HJK or Slow Kick. So, and in turn, these ghost types can just switch into any fighting move in general. So just because Lopunny is weak to like fighting doesn't mean like, oh fuck, I can just go back to my own ghost. So, and these ghosts can really just triple down opposing fighting types, or just like have their own way and just set up and pivot around and whatnot. So like mons like even Pythagoras could just set up T-Spikes, and Mimikyu could just beat opposing like fighting and like in general with stab. And Rotom here listed has access to, or has like flying resistance. So yeah, fairy type Pokemon are nice to have because they're clerics. Some of them are clerics, and others like Sylveon, Florges, and Togekiss, and others like I want to say Tapu Koko, Tapu Fini, Azumarill, Primarina, Azazu, and Togekiss like are very good offensive partners of Lopunny as well, since they just deal with like opposing we call it dragon type as well if they don't deal with them, and fighting. So oftentimes like Lopunny has struggles against certain dragons and fighting types. Psychic type Pokemon are really nice, since of course it goes back to the dark types. Like, oh, Lopunny can also deal with these dark types as well, but these psychic types can also form a good offensive core with Lopunny, like Mew, Latios, Marinichlis, Victini, and Gardevoir. They just deal like heavy damage or just bulky in general. So yeah. Then lastly, you want to have entry hazards, whatever you can. Like I put these mons as examples because Ferrothorn, Nidoqueen, Ren usually have access to several entry hazards, and such as spikes, toxic spikes, and rocks in general. You can also put webs up there, but Lopunny is a fast Pokemon in of itself, so most of the time you're not gonna like utilize big webs. So yeah, unless you want to outspeed like a Scarf Burst, T it. So poison type Pokemon actually take on fighting and fairy types very well. And there's a wide variety of poison types where you want an offensive ones, like, or defensive sets, like let's say like Muck here. And so offensive poison types do have access, or some of these poisons do have access to toxic spikes, which Lopunny appreciates, because they could just wear down opposing teams with Fake Out plus T-Spikes just to wear it for gradual chip damage once it switches in and out. So, and Gengar is really nice. It's like again, core forms a good core with them. And like I mentioned earlier, like Volturn is really nice to have with Lopunny, because like, especially with the defensive pivots, as we'll get to. Because Volturn cores are really nice to have, because Lopunny, they just like, if Lopunny is in trouble, you just switch out with Baton Pass, and it goes with Landorus, and it just goes with U-turn, and goes with Thunderous, and then goes for Volt Switch and whatnot. So just get chip damage or information from your opponent. See what they're going to try to do, not risk Lopunny too early or whatever. So yeah. Then you have like probably the two more important like things about Lopunny, like partners, or two more. I'll say two most important like aspects of Lopunny's partners are defensive pivots or walls, and wall breakers and setup sweepers in general. So I had like a long line of other things. So but I want to stress this really enough, because the thing with Lopunny is that it has no recovery. And it has like aside Power Punch, it has pretty much little to no setup coverage. Like setup. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna need like pivot options to like wear down the opposing team as well. Whether it's status, chip damage, or their stabs, just moving certain items like knockoff, just wearing them down with toxic, you name it. So like mons like Zapdos, like Zapdos can take on opposing fighting types very well. It just has access to defog. Bulu just has gravity terrain, so it gives Lopunny a little bit of recovery. Hippo, this is a good defensive wall in general for Lopunny to switch in case he's facing like a strong physical attacker. Amoonguss is really nice since it's and Torn and Tangrowth, as well as like Slow Throw are really nice since they have regen. They can switch on with Lopunny with especially when it has like Baton Pass, so or just hard switch out so to these mons and just keep switching in and out in case they not into Lopunny but like but these guys can like pretty much take any hits that they want and just pivot into Lopunny. Especially like Torn's case, they could pivot into Lopunny if the matchup is there. So and they can just regain back HP. So they just also wear down opposing teams. Very like physical attacker, physical or special attackers very nicely. So, then you have mons like Suicune, Milotic, and Gastro, like bulky waters in general. I almost put like grass like add water, but I do want to stress the point that it could be any defensive pivot. Like there's also others I mentioned that on the top of the screen, like Crobat, Rotom, and Gliscor could also fit in this category. But that's the thing, like you want to have like Pokemon that just take hits for Lopunny, cover it off, and also deal back enough damage to where Lopunny can either two-shot them or OHKO them for the end game. So these mons don't have access to very fast speeds at times because they're focusing on a lot of their defenses, and they rely on Lopunny just to get those OHKOs. If you're wondering how Lopunny gets a lot of kills, this is pretty much the way it does. It's like the goal is just to wear down your opponent's team with hazards, chip, toxic, status, whatever, or even their own attacks, and just enough to where Lopunny can just OHKO them. Or in some situations, you like to have a wall breaker to do that. Like wall breakers like Garchomp, Kyurem, Zygarde, special choice band, Vex, Necrozma, like Volcanion, and even Zephylon are just good wall breakers as they just deal massive amount of damage to the opponent. Not enough to OHKO sometimes, but just enough to where like, oh, it's within range of Lopunny's return or HJK. So you could also have access to setup options like let's say Manaphy, Fable, Zygarde with Dragon Dance, Necrozma with Sword Calm Mind, Escadrille with Sword Dance, and Volcarona Volt with Quiver Dance. They're also nice to have because they could just break through opposing teams as well, and that's a key thing. Like, just try to either do enough damage to where Lopunny could just clean at the end game. So yeah. So for checks and counters, while Lopunny's unresisted like stab options pretty much make it almost impossible to like take a non-resisted like or hit at times, you're gonna have to rely on Pokemon with high defenses or like moves that could just status it. Moves that could status it or just wear it down in general. So, or they could just, since these mons typically have something that could status it, they could just knock it out in one hit or just wear it down in general. So yeah. First part is Psychic type Pokemon. Like Psychic types are very nice counters to Lopunny since they have high defenses at times and have access to recovery. So like Cresselia, Reuniclus, Mew. Like Mew in particular could just burn it as well, so if it wants to. The thing with Lopunny though is that it really doesn't want to face any of these because they could just set up on Lopunny as well. And it's pretty much like almost like a 50-50 mind game whether you try to want to encore them in or not, so yeah. Then you have certain flying types like Zapdos, which can status Lopunny with Paralysis with static if it ever touches it. Celesteela, which can just go with Leech Seeds. Mandibuzz is really defensive. You can just go for Foul Blade, just go for Chip. Or just have Rocky Helmet in general. Togekiss can status it as well, and also Talonflame is like really nice. Despite losing its ability, or losing its or getting nerfed with his ability. Gale Wings could still like outspeed like Talonflame at full, so if it has a Z move in general, so yeah. Then you have fairy type Pokemon like Mega Mawile, Clefable, Sylveon, Cliffy, and Comfy, which are very threatening to Lopunny in general, since they all have like they could take a hit and just OHKO back in general. Like Mega Mawile, if it intimidates Lopunny and Mega Evolves, like it could just OHKO it. But that's a very specific situation. But still, like but even then, like Mega Mawile can be built to be more defensive in general. So yeah. Then you have Clefable, which is very defensive in general, with its like natural defenses. However, it has unaware to take even unboosted power punches, or boosted power punches. And however, it does have to be careful with Encore. So yeah. Thing with the Sylveon is that it will be able to take a hit from Lopunny, but it will have to be at the cost of some 50% of its HP. So yeah. As with most of these mons, they'll take some heavy damage, but they'll be able to knock them out in general. So yeah. Then you have Klefki and Comfy, which pretty much are very annoying for Lopunny because Klefki could just paralyze it with Thunder Wave, or status it with Toxic, which is really bad, or set up a little screen. And Comfy has access to Triage, which in turn has access to fast recovery moves, and most importantly, Draining Kiss, which is +3 with priority. So that's really scary. So now for ghost types, most defensive ghost types like Dusclops, Pylosan, Pythagoras, and Gorgeist do very well with it, since they have access to Wisp, but they have high defenses. They can just do chip damage and they're just wear it down in general. So EVQ can't switch it into Lopunny, but if it has Disguise up, it can actually deal with heavy damage. It can actually OHKO it with Play Rough. So yeah, bulky water types are really nice because they have high defenses or have access to abilities like Intimidate, Regen, like Marva Scale, like in these monster cases, to like take them on. So like Slowbro is really probably one of the better counters to the Lopunny, as well as Toxapex. Gyarados can also take on Lopunny with thanks to its Intimidate ability, but it has to keep in mind of Toxic and Thunder Punch. Same with Suicune. Like, it has high defenses, but it can get locked into Encore. Milotic has to be careful about getting Toxic or taking repeated hits, but most of the time it could deal with Lopunny. So then you have bulky grass types, which have general recovery. They don't mind switching into Lopunny. They have status options like, let's say, Toxic, Thunder Wave, Sleep Powder, Spore, Sunspore in general. So yeah, they have access to Leech Seed and Venusaur, Bulu, Celebi, and Chestnut, I believe. They also have they have recovery moves as well, like Horn Leech, Drain, and respectively. So they could just take it on like Lopunny, and they just wear it down to the point where like they can either knock them out, Lopunny out, or they just have someone else just not revenge kill it. So yeah. For other counters, you have bulky fighting type Pokemon, or mons that are just faster in general, like say Buzzwole, Conkeldurr, Kamo. They are also, you can put Girder in as well. Since these mons can take a hit from Lopunny and just retaliate back with Drain Punch, they'll just recover back the HP. So Gallade is also a good one because if Lopunny tries to fake out, Gallade could just kill it with Close Combat or like Drain Punch. Hawlucha is also an interesting one, since it can actually outspeed Lopunny with Terrain Up. However, keep in mind, if you're going to try to attempt to set up on Lopunny, don't. Especially if it has access to Encore, because chances are likely it'll lock you in with Encore, and it'll put you in a unfavorable position, so Lopunny will just switch out or just knock you out with, like, let's say with priority, or like, it's stab and then priority once the Encore is done, so yeah. Poison type Pokemon are really nice to have, since some of them are really defensive enough to take on Lopunny's hits, and also have are either bulky or just fast enough in general. So like Scolipede can get speed boost in general and just kill it with, say, a superpower. Say with Nidoqueen with some status. Some of these Pokemon have access to Toxic Spike, so it could just wear down Lopunny that way. Just wear it down with gradual damage over time. It will just faint. So Crobat, Vileplume and Weezing are really good defensive checks as well in general. So then you have other physical walls that that we've covered from the other section, like let's say Hippowdon, Tangrowth, Gliscor, Suicune, and Scarm. They take damage from Scarm and Lopunny, and they just retaliate back with either just all the Brave Bird status, or just Whirlwind it out, or just whatever. They're there just to eat a hit. So priority options are really nice to have for Lopunny because, like, given that Lopunny is very fast with his high speed, you're not gonna outspeed him most of the time. So why not just have priority? Like, let's say he banded Zygarde or Dragonite's E-Speed, Scizor with like a boosted +2 like Sworce Dance, boosted Bullet Punch, Infernape with Vacuum Wave and Mach Punch, Breloom with the Mach Punch, and Arcanine with E-Speed. It also has Intimidate to burn, and with potential to burn a Lopunny, so yeah. Then you have revenge killers like Mega Pinsir, Mega Zam, Aerodactyl, and Zoroark with close combat, so most of these four Pokemon or others can outspeed Lopunny and get a hit off before it, but these things don't want it to be switched in, don't want to take a hit from it on a switch in, so they're mostly offensive checks at best. And not to mention, some of them, like Lopunny has access to Fake Out plus Quick Attack, so yeah. In general, you could also try running Scarfers, so but keep in mind that, you know, Fake Out plus Quick Attacks and things, so yeah. And speaking of that, you could try running Pokemon with Rocky Helmet or Rough Skin, like say Garchomp, Ferrothorn, Dredagon, even Chestnut with like access to Rocky Helmet plus Spiky Shield, just wear down Lopunny very fast. Just do enough chip damage where like it will just get revenge by, let's say, a priority use or a dedicated wall or revenge killer, so yeah. Also with entry hazards, it'll just wear down Lopunny as well, so we reached a verdict. And to be honest, Lopunny is probably one of the best Mega Evolutions in the Draft League format. And it's, without question, it's probably one of the best ones out there. Like, let's say, like, maybe top 3, in my opinion. So, well, that's a spoiler if you figured that out, so. But, yeah. But it's like, but even then, it's like, Lopunny is very offensive in general, so like with its normal fighting stat with paired with Scrappy and 135 attack and or 36 attack and 135 speed, it's very difficult to like revenge kill in general. So like most of the time, like Lopunny is gonna be the first one to get the hit off for your opponent. And the thing is, number 1 fighting stat is all you need. And it's really insane because like that means you could just run the last 2 however you feel. So whether you need like something like say you need something like, let's say, like Ice Punch for Dragonite, you just have it, or Ice Punch for Garchomp, you have that. Or you want to have access to Fake Out plus Quick Attack, you just have that option just to wear down or surprise a Scarfer. Or you want to have something like, let's say, Encore just to lock something in, you have Encore just to get some free chip damage as well with Return or your fighting coverage of choice between High Jump Kick, Low Kick, and Drain Punch. So yeah, the thing is, it has perfect coverage in general and high speed, and it's always going to be a very good offensive bond. As long as like in League format, you're gonna try to chip down your opponent as fast as possible and whatnot. Lopunny's just really good. Like, that's the thing with Lopunny. Like, very few Pokemon can outspeed this thing. Not even Tapu Koko can outspeed it unless you have a Scar. So that's the thing. With Lopunny, it's just very difficult to check it offensively, and you're often forced to use defensive checks. But even then, you could just have your own team just wear down the opposing team as well, and then now Lopunny, once you can to revenge kill something, or even like pressure the opposing team with like something like a Power Punch, and then all of a sudden you could just sweep it with like +1 return or HAK. So yeah. But even then, it's like you just gotta keep Lopunny healthy at all costs for the end game. It's a very good Pokemon to have just for that in that situation. So yeah. That's not to say that it has its fair share of checks and counters, because it does. So I don't think it's necessarily broken. but it's definitely one of those Pokemon you have to prepare for in League. And if you use it, you have to consider it in every one of your matchups because it's just that good offensively. It's all like that's why you see it in like some of the top 10 like kill leaders in like most leagues, since it's generally going to be the one doing the revenge killing or the cleaning itself instead of like your other mons. Those other mons are just setting up for Lopunny just to get the kills. So yeah, pretty much that's pretty much the whole point of using Lopunny. So yeah. So that is the end of the video. So I'll be covering more Mega Pokemon like as we go. So look forward for that. So yeah. For any other Pokemon, I'll be having like a poll in the suggestions, or like if anyone of you guys or gals wanna hear me talk about other Pokemon in Draft League, I'll just leave a poll. It'll be up for like maybe a week, and I'll just go by there, go it from there. So yeah. So, anyways, that'll be it for this Mega Lopunny video. So, if you notice anything I missed out or any issues, errors, and whatnot, so I'll talk about it like in the comments as well. So, like so if that in mind, like I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like, comment, dislike, whatever, and like I said, like if you have any input on the video or anything about Lopunny I missed out, then yeah, or anything I said incorrectly about it or whatever, anything I'm wrong about, so any criticisms in general. So yeah. Alright, so with that being said, I'll see you guys.